Sports Card Podcast, where we tackle the hobby's hottest topics in depth to help you navigate the sports card landscape and enjoy the hobby we all love. Here's your host, John Newman.
All right, welcome to another episode of Hobby Quick Hits. We took a week off last week, just kind of a tumultuous week with interviews. I had some interviews, and I'm not just talking interviews for Sports Card Nation, but real interviews where I was on a couple shows, and even other interviews where I was interviewing for prospective new jobs. So there was three sets of interviews going on the last couple weeks for Sports Card Nation. Me interviewing guests for upcoming episodes. I appeared on a couple other shows, and then real life interviews, as I'll call them, for jobs. So been busy, and was having a hard time to really get a Hobby Quick Hits out. So what you did get, and hopefully you caught it, and if not, you can still catch it. It's out there. The Breaking Cardboard Show, the once a month live show we do, the second Friday of every month. Episode 2 aired with co-host Jeremy Lee of Sports Cards Live, and our featured guest was Chris Carlin. And if you haven't caught that, you can catch the video version on YouTube, or you can catch the audio version the same place you find this show. It's Breaking Cardboard Episode 2. And Chris Carlin from Upper Deck, great guest, very candid. Talked about the Fanatics deal, Upper Deck's place kind of in it. Put to bed a rumor that's been sort of going around with Fanatics and Upper Deck. And we got to break 2 boxes of Skybox Metal Universe hockey. Really sharp looking stuff. Hot product right now, and got to break 2 boxes of that. I just actually got done packaging a bunch of the hits up, giving away to people who were in the live, and did a hashtag collect the best. They won some of those cards. They'll be receiving them probably in the next 7 to 10 days. A few of the packages are going to Canada, so it's going to take a little bit longer to get there. But so been busy, but finally settled down enough to get one of these Hobby Quick Hits out. What is today's Hobby Quick Hits about? Well, it's about me getting back in the saddle again. What do I mean? I just did my first show as a dealer in 2 years, and I'm going to talk all about the lead up into that, how it went, some observations, and so we'll get to that. But first, let's hear from our great sponsors, Mojo Break. Hey folks, wanted to tell you about the best place to get some of your sealed sports card wax products. Great selection and some of the lowest prices on the web. MojoBreakShop.com is that place. Whether it's a box or a whole case, they're your guys, and they ship around the world right to your door. The Mojo Break name is one of the most trusted in the hobby. From sports cards to Pokemon, their selection can't be beat. They offer daily deals and pre-orders. Who won first place at this year's Topps Rip Party? None other than Mojo Break. Their prices are already great, but here's a way to save even more money. Use the code QUICKHITS, that's QUICKHITS, for 10% off anything on MojoBreakShop.com. They also have a full-service card shop in Santa Clara, California. So if you're in the area, stop by. They're open 7 days a week, so check them out at MojoBreakShop.com. All right, let's talk about the show I just did. It was at the New York State Fairgrounds here in Syracuse, where I am. Literally, the show venue is about 3.4 miles from my house, so very close. And it's a show. It's called Collectors Fest. They number each one. It's usually a quarterly show, about one every 3 months. But it seemed to be going to about 3 times a year under normal conditions pre-pandemic. So I believe this was Collectors Fest 88. I could be off by one or two either way. I've probably done half of them, I would say, probably 40 of them since its inception here in the Syracuse area. But this was the first one in 2 years. So it went on hiatus for 2 years. When it was announced they were going to do it again, and I got my invite as a dealer who has set up, get your tables quick. So I got my two tables. Two tables run about $110. It's a kind of show. Sometimes I'll do one table. Sometimes I'll do two. This time I took the two tables, figuring it hasn't been done in a while. Get more stuff out, and not doing a show in 2 years. And that's the other thing. I didn't do any other shows in that hiatus. I don't want to say I was waiting for this one. It just worked out here in New York State, where I do predominantly most of my shows. When I do them, there really hasn't been any. And so I kind of had to wait, unless I really wanted to travel further, had to wait till they started back up. I got a little bit behind in my stuff, so I had to kind of do a little catch up. I'm a guy that loves and believes in pricing all your stuff. People shouldn't. I don't like to have to ask anyone, hey, what's the price of this? And I don't think other people. I think people rather see the price and then haggle or barter. So I had to price a lot of my stuff because I hadn't been doing shows in a couple of years. I'd just been acquiring stuff and not pricing it like as if I was in my regular show circuit. So I had to do a lot of catch up. I had to go through my inventory and price stuff that was sans price. The other thing I do, and I think I've spoken to this before on one of my shows anyway, is all my inventory, you're going to think this is crazy, is in alphabetical order by sport. So all my baseball stuff is in alphabetical order. All my football, basketball, hockey, etc., all in alphabetical order. Now that part was done. I didn't have to do anything, play catch up there. It took me when I did that about, I don't know, it seems like 4 or 5 years ago, when I decided to put my inventory in alphabetical order. It took me, if memory serves me correct, 3 whole weekends to complete that task. And what I mean by that is literally 3 whole weekends. Saturday and Sunday, just me putting it all in order. And when I say whole weekends, I'm talking about probably 8 to 10 hours each of those days. I did it 3 straight weekends after working during the week. My wife, who's usually very even-keeled, even said, I remember when I did this, she's like, are we going to see you at all anytime in the next few weekends? Because it was taking up a lot of my time. I explained to her what I was kind of doing, and that once I get going, I'm kind of impatient and I want to get it done. So again, it took about, I don't know, if you figure about 8 hours average, maybe do about 6 hours average, because you get up, go to the bathroom, get a drink, eat. So figure about 6 hours each day. That's 12 hours a weekend times 3, probably 36 manpower hours to complete that task of putting it all in alphabetical order. Now, once it's in alphabetical order, it's a lot easier. Any new inventory I get, whether that's through buying collections or single cards or lots or what have you, or opening stuff, you just maintain that alphabetical order. So anything new, it just goes in its proper place. It's less time consuming. But the beauty of having stuff like that is, I have a lot of stuff, so I can't put everything out at a show. With 2 tables, I could do 4 tables and probably still not have everything out. So with the 2 table space, 2 showcases, the All-State type, the glass, aluminum ones, and then I have 2 stand-up cases that clamp to the tables that only take up what would be like 1 roll of cards. my father made those, and sentimental. They do the trick, but just the fact that he made them, I utilize them, and so I still can't get everything out there. So one of the reasons I have stuff in alphabetical order like that is two things. Number one, it's easier to find whatever I'm looking for, even when I make online sales. But it's also, someone comes up to the table, and when I'm making that small talk with them, I always make a point to say, if there's something you're looking for, let me know. I don't have everything out. And you'd be surprised how many times someone will name a player. Hey, I'm looking for Shaq. And I can go to my boxes and pull out all the Shaquille O'Neals in literally less than a minute or two. Or I know where they are, in the showcases as well, if it's something that I've put out for possible sale. So it makes my life a lot easier. I think it leads to sales because, when someone asks for something and you can pull it out quick, there's not much more impressive than that. If you're digging through things and it's taking time, their attention span wanes, they're starting to look around at look at that table over there, right? And you lose a potential sale. So it's one of the things I wanted to do a few years back, and I did it. I've maintained it, and I think it's led to generate income, and it's led to sales, and I think that's a good thing. So, got back on the horse. Let's talk about the show itself. Now, if you follow me on social media, you realize I'm currently not working in my regular job. I was let go. I work for a company. I won't name them. Not the terminal level. They were not doing well, and I was a casualty of that. I'm not going to get all political. It's a longer story. I'm happy to report I did accept an offer for a new position with a new company, and I will be starting that in mid-October. So we'll be back to work soon, and looking forward to that. As much as I've enjoyed being home a little bit and catching up with some stuff with the show and cards and that sort of thing, I'm a worker. This is actually the first time since I've been 16 years old that I haven't had a place of employment. Again, I'll be back mid-October, God willing. So, so the nice thing was I had some time to kind of catch up and get ready for the show, and took advantage of that. And, one of the things, the show is sort of, can be really good or kind of really bad. Not a lot in between. And, I don't do them all. The last one I did 2 years ago, quite frankly, was not good. It was very bad. And I don't know why. I do know sort of why. Syracuse is not a great market. Listen, I live here. I'm not trying to, poop where I live, as they say. I've changed one of the words there. If you know what I'm talking about. But it's not a great, strong market. Even in the state of the hobby is now, and even during its boom days, right? Which is odd. It's odd, but locally we have one card store. I've talked about that on the show. Not a fan of it. Father left the building to the store owner, so no overhead. Not necessarily a great guy, just my opinion, and some others as well. And it would be great to open a store in Syracuse. There's only the one, but I'm reluctant to do it for this reason, that the market's just not. It's not a hotbed. I don't know why. We're only an hour and 10 minutes away from Cooperstown, New York. There's the Utica show. We got Albany, Rochester. Those shows seem to do a little bit better. I don't have a real good explanation for it. It's just, other than the fact that I guess some areas just, it's just not a huge thing, if you will. But we do have collectors, and again, at this Collectors Fest, I've done very well, and then I've had some clunkers. Well, the last one 2 years ago was in the clunker category. And so when I got the offer to get some tables at this show, I actually thought about it for a little bit. I'm like, just remembering the last one. But I said, you know what? It's been a couple years. People are probably, chomping at the bit for another show. I'm gonna dip my toe in the water. I'm gonna take 2 tables. I'm gonna do this show. Did all that prep work, got all that caught up, and I kind of went into the show thinking, not expecting much. I kind of was bracing myself for not a great show. And I tend to do that a little bit, sort of to soften the blow. Like if you expect not great and then it is great, it's even better. And if you expect not great and it turns out to be true, the impact doesn't hit you as hard. And I know that's not a great way to always think, but it's kind of how my mind works. So I kind of went into the show thinking, man, I'm not expecting a boombastic show. And so they let you set up on Saturday. The show was just Sunday 9 to 3, 6 hours window, and they let you set up Saturday. So I went Saturday, actually before Hobby Hotline, which I was hosting. Check that episode out, all about remembering 9/11 20 years later. Different sort of show, but one that we felt we had to do. But getting back on course here, I went Saturday and put out my tablecloths, my runner, clamped my stand-up showcases to the table, and put out my 2 all-state metal and glass showcases. I didn't leave any cards there. Actually, I left some junk wax boxes. I put them under the table where you couldn't see them through the tablecloth. The building gets locked up and that sort of thing. But I didn't leave any cards, and went Sunday early and got all my cards out and set up for my first show in 2 years. I was excited. I'm always excited whether I'm attending the show or as a customer or on the other side of the table as a dealer. And, the podcaster in me, the hobbyist in me, the dealer in me, was anxious to see after a 2-year hiatus, how many people were going to come to this thing? Would people be spending money? I had socked away some money that I had planned to buy some stuff at the show, whether it be me walking around to other tables or people coming up to my table with their boxes to sell stuff. Now, what usually happens at these shows, my son Jordan is my assistant, and he will attend the show with me. And he'll, when I want to walk around, he'll be manning the table, and vice versa. When he wants to walk around and look at some other stuff, I'll be at the table. Well, time came to get ready Sunday morning. I knocked on his door like, hey, man, let's go. And he said he wasn't feeling well, and that he'd have to meet me there if he started to feel better. So went there solo. I was a little, worried because, you got to nature calls, you got to go to the bathroom, right? It's been a couple years. There's new people set up. You got to trust somebody. Hey, watch my table for 5 minutes and that sort of thing. And a lot of work to pack up and all that stuff. So a little disappointed, but young man didn't feel well. What are you going to do? That's it is what it is. So I went there, set up, and I was a little concerned with the show. One of the things is, and it's not the promoter's fault, but we're not far from Buffalo, and it was a Buffalo home game that Sunday, and we have a lot of people from Syracuse that are Buffalo Bills season ticket holders that are also, I believe, probably a good % chunk of them probably are card collectors too. And they tailgate and they leave 5 or 6 in the morning to go to the game, and so you're going to lose out on that crowd. They were playing the Steelers, by the way. I'm a Steeler guy. Happy to announce, as you might already know, Steelers won a game that most experts predicted they would lose. Went into Buffalo, came out victorious. All right, back to Hobby Quick Hits here. So was a little concerned with that. It's opening day of football. I was a little concerned with, attendance. People love football, especially here in the Northeast. And so I was really bracing myself for not a great show. But, you always hold out hope, and I like to be wrong sometimes. And a funny story, so there weren't a lot of people, when you go to the national or these big regional shows, there's a lot of people walking around with the graded card cases or the cases selling. I was expecting more of that, even though it's a 100-table show here in Syracuse. There wasn't a ton of people really selling, but there was a few. And one particular, two guys, father and son, matter of fact, and the son, when I say son, he was probably 25, father was probably in his 50s, and they were coming around, and they weren't, they were very upfront, like, hey, this stuff is from the 2000s when we collected, and we're getting, we haven't bought anything in a while, and we're looking to get out. And so they had this, medium-sized case. They asked if I was interested in buying. Again, this is very early on. I had made some sales, but it was really in the early stages of the show. And I always usually look, unless they, it's a sport or something I had no interest in at all. I asked them what they had, and they said it was baseball. So we put the box on the table, and I start going through. Oh, baseball and basketball. I take that back. And they had some nice Carmelo Anthony stuff, and he's a guy I would tell you that is actually a kind of a great buy because he's going to get in the Hall of Fame, and he's kind of overshadowed, obviously, by the same class with Carmelo and Dwayne Wade in it, right? But he's going to kind of be sneaky. Did a lot of that, but I didn't buy those. And, maybe if it was later in the show, but it was early, I had made some smaller sales. And, again, with that thought in the back of my mind, two thoughts were in my back of my mind, truth be told. The show might not be very good, number one. And number two, even though you're making card sales and there's unemployment, you are not employed at the moment. I had not got the call that I've been hired, with a job offer yet. This was Sunday. I got that great call on Monday morning. So I was hoping I would get it, but at this point I didn't know. So those two thoughts were in my mind, and so I was real selective at like anything I wanted. Even with the money I had put away and brought with me to the show with the intent to buy cards. The employment situation and kind of what I perceive would be not a great show made me a little hesitant to pull the trigger. But out of this case, they were like, we'd like to sell the whole thing, but I mentioned like, hey, what do you got? If you were to do that, what are you looking at? That number didn't work for me, and I said that. I said, well, I can't. I'm not interested in all of them for that price, but can I pick a few out? And we can negotiate that. Yeah, that's fine. We're here to, we're looking to get out. We're here to sell. And so I picked two cards out, both 2004. One was the Game Faces Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. auto, sharp-looking signature. I know he signs a lot, but it's still a cool card. And the other one was the one I really was my focal point, was a 2004 Topps Finest Moments Willie Mays on-card chrome auto. Really sharp card. I've posted it on my social media. And so I pulled those two cards out, asked them what they had to have for it. I had a number in my own head. I pulled out my phone. We looked up comps. I was very forthright with them. And, said, hey, what do you got to have? And they gave me an initial price. And I said, there's just not, for me to, not enough meat on the bone as much as I like to have them. So we haggled a little bit. We kind of finally came to a deal, a compromise. I don't like to advertise what I spend, but was able to obtain those two cards. I will just say this, at the time of the show, those two cards cost me more money than I had taken in at that point. Now, that changed, obviously, by the end of the show, thankfully. I wasn't even sure that was going to happen. But so I procured those 2 cards, and, they're going to be cards, especially in the Willie Mays' case, the greatest living ball player now. And he's up there in age, and I hope it's later than sooner, but we're probably going to get some news at some point that Willie Mays is gone. And again, I'm not rooting for that, I'm not a proponent of that, I'm just saying that's what happens when people get old. And so, he's not a prolific signer. He's, some people will tell you he's even not the nicest guy in the world when he does signing. And if you look at some of his recent autos with his age, it's kind of like a Hank Aaron too at the end. They get the very not as neat of a signature, and that comes with the territory. Guys are in their late 80s, it's your hand's going to shake and whatnot. This was a 2004 auto, and so it was very crisp, nice and clean. And again, Willie Mays, one of the greatest ball players of all time, and didn't have any Willie Mays autograph stuff. And so my thought process with that card is, hey, if I can buy this, I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to keep it. I got a little acrylic spin around showcase on my desk, and that's where that card is right now. It's going to be, again, I'm not hoping for this, but when Mr. Mays passes on, obviously we've seen that in the past with legends of the game, right? When they pass on, a lot of their autograph stuff skyrockets up. We've seen that with Kobe. We've seen that with anyone that passes on. And so Mays is not a prolific signer. And, even when I was looking for the comps, there was only probably about, even with completed sales, and one's currently for sale, there's only 4 or 5 of that card to go off of, and so small sample size. So wound up with the deal. The Mays, I'm going to you've heard me use the term before, marinate. That's going to be a marinate card. The Griffey's going to go in my show box, to go out in the case. I actually didn't put it, believe it or not, even though I bought it early, both of those cards, neither one went out into the cases for resale. I put them in my fanny pack. I rocked a fanny pack for the first time in my life at the show. Kind of funny story, but did that. So those 2 cards went in there for safekeeping. And later on, I made a trade. I'm not a big trader, but a young man came up, wanted a couple of Kuna cards, and offered a Juan Soto Topps Update rookie PSA 9, and trade was fair, and a young man, and so I made the deal. Saw some kids, not a ton of kids, but did see some kids. Gave out some free packs, as I like to do sometimes, to promote the hobby to the young folks, and got parents to thank me and say, hey man, thank you, and had a lot of swag out, free stickers, my poker chips and business cards, and gave quite a bit of those away. I was surprised, I went to the National, obviously, in Chicago, met a lot of people I knew in person, and some for the first time. And what really surprised me with the 2021 National in comparison to the 2019 is how many people came up to me like, hey, are you John from Sports? Yeah, and that knew me, which is always a pretty cool feeling and humbling too. And not a celebrity. I don't pretend to be one, but it's always nice to be recognized for whatever contribution you make to the hobby. And so that was nice, but I was surprised that here, even in Syracuse, not a huge city, how many people, probably 5 or 6, 7, came up to my table. Hey, I listened to your show. I didn't even know you're in Syracuse. Or, a couple of them asked, like, what are you doing in Syracuse? And I'm like, I live in the area. Oh, I didn't know that, which I have said that on the show a few times. they apparently missed those episodes. But all joking aside, it was kind of neat to meet some Syracuse folks that knew the show, and some of them didn't know, that I was from the area. So that was kind of neat. So I say about half of the 7 was that, and the other half were 7 of that 7, 3 or 4 knew I was, going to be at the show and came by, shook hands, we talked, chatted, and always appreciate that. So it was nice meeting some folks right here, even at a local 100 table card show. I didn't really expect that amount on Sunday. So made the purchase of the 2 cards, put them in the fanny pack, didn't put them out, and things started to pick up. Started to make some sales. I didn't bring all my wax, but I brought up probably 20% of the sealed wax that I actually have. Some of the online exclusive. Made some sales there, pretty good. It's always nice selling wax at a local show because you don't pay the eBay fees and that sort of thing. And so that was good. Did well with some of that stuff. Definitely took home less than I brought. That's always important if you can. And did very well. But I will say, once it got very busy, but once 1:30 hit, those first round of NFL games started, it got quiet. The attendance of the show was announced 400 people through the doors. I don't know if they were counting dealers. I don't know. If you ask me, did it feel like 400? Yeah, I guess it did. It was kind of like in waves, though. It didn't feel like 400 people were all in there at one time. It was sort of kind of, 9 to 10, 10 to 11. It was kind of like people came in, left, and the next wave. So that's the kind of feeling it gave me. So did very well up until 1:30. Thankfully, it was very well because after 1:30, some smaller sales, which do add up, but did the bulk of my money making from probably, I'd say, doors open at 9, 9:30, 9:45 to like 12:45, and then it kind of petered out. And but thankfully, that first half was enough to be what I would call a successful show. Didn't buy any more stuff. I looked at some. I noticed a lot of younger folks, rather than having like a box of stuff, I had a few people come up to me literally with like one card in their hand and say, "Any interest in this?" And whatever the card was, I didn't in those particular cases. So sort of different than what I was expecting. I thought there'd be more people selling their wares on the other side of the table like you typically see at most card shows, but not really in this case. Again, 400 people. Very pleased. There's another show in, I think, November. Not sure what I'm going to do with that, but there is another show here locally, different promoter, in October 8th, if my memory serves me right. And it's in Utica, New York, which is about 30 minutes here away from Syracuse. And it's, a 75 table show. And there's going to have an autograph signer there. And it's actually a pretty good one because he's not a guy that signs a lot. But Hall of Fame, legendary Hall of Fame coach Bill Parcells will be at the show. It's October 3rd from 10 to 4 in Utica. At the Delta Hotel. And so probably going to attend that show. I talked to the promoter who actually was set up at this Syracuse show on Sunday himself. And so we'll talk a little bit more and see if I can get a table or two. I might be a show where I try to get just one table and get as much out as I can in the one table. I've pulled it off before, and I can do it again if need to. So it was nice to get back, kind of coming down the home stretch here. It was nice to get back in the saddle. It was fun. got a little tired there in the afternoon. My phone started dying. They ask you if you need electricity. I don't have anything that needs electricity, so I don't say yes just for the sake of saying yes when someone else might. But my phone started dying in the afternoon. Me checking that Steeler game score constantly and using it to check comps and text from home and other places, and a lot of fun, but kind of hit that wall, tired wise. And my son Jordan did show up towards the end of the show, helped me pack up and load the sportage back up to go home, which is nice short drive, 3.4 miles, and so overall, kind of to put a bow on the show, I did actually better than I was kind of bracing for, significantly better. Bought 2 great cards, traded for the Soto, and thought it was good. Now, then the thought crosses my mind: do I chalk the good show up to the fact that we haven't had one in 2 years, and now that they're kind of back, will they sort of peter out? That's always the thing you have to, sort of kind of analyze and kind of just feel your way through that process. One thing I know, though, is I love attending shows on either side of the table. I got a nice, one of those retractable displays for Sports Card Nation that made its debut at this show. That was kind of a lot of fun, and got to put it in action, and so got to use that. But had a great time, had a lot of conversations with folks, and looking forward to doing shows when I can. I'm very selective with what I don't just do them for the sake of doing them. I'm analytical with them. I'll probably do this Utica one with Bill Parcells being there. I think they're going to heavily promote it, and expect a decent crowd, and that it's a little bit of ways you might get some new folks that aren't going to come to Syracuse potentially, and vice versa. So we'll see. But that about does it. A little bit of my show experience after 2 years out of that game, if you will, and back to doing the shows, and hope to do a few more when I can. Always a good time talking to people, making some sales, buying some cards. That's what it's all about, right? Having fun in the hobby. Sunday was fun. Definitely slept very well. Couldn't get out a new Hobby Quick Hit, so we released Breaking Cardboard episode 2 on that Monday. Check that out. Hobby Hotline 9/11 special edition. Check that out as well. And we should be back in rhythm here for this show as well. So with that being said, we're going to put a bow tie on this thing and wrap it up. And we'll see you Friday for another episode of Sports Card Nation. And we'll see you the following Monday for another episode of this Hobby Quick Hits. Take care. All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of Hobby Quick Hits. Want to give out our social media, starting with our website, which is www.sportscardnationpodcast.com. Facebook, you can follow us at www.facebook.com/sportscardnationpodcast/ Twitter, we are at sportscardnati1, so it's sportscard NATI1. Instagram, at Sports Card Nation Podcast, or you can email the show hobbyquickhits@gmail.com. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.